Well, good evening, everybody. It's gone 8 o'clock, so I'm assuming that we're okay to start. And very glad to hear you all. I hear from Pamela that we have about 150 people on the call. So I don't know whether there are 150 people there now, but for sure there'll be people joining us as we move forward. So wherever you are in the world, I want to say greetings and hello from Singapore. Singapore is my home. I'm English by birth, but I've lived in Singapore for the last 30 years, but travel around the world and run workshops and seminars in 62 countries. The main reason I love my job is because I can travel and get to see this beautiful world of ours. So it's particularly hard at the moment, stuck in Singapore. Not that I don't love Singapore, but I do love travel, and I miss that tremendously. So welcome, everybody. We're going to have a session where I'm going to talk for about 45 minutes. And then we'll have 15 minutes or so question and answers at the end. Just to remind you, you are all muted and without a video. So that's something I'm not normally used to. So I love to see the live faces. So it feels a bit lonely up here, but I'm trusting that many of you are here and watching. If you have questions, if you could put them in the Q&A, don't use the chat for questions. So I'm hoping that's clear. I'm trying to move forward here, but it's difficult because somebody is covering the button where I move forward. So let me, there we go. All right, so I'm here to talk about synchronicity. The session that I'm going to share with you is about the stories of synchronicity, the times when things happen to you which are unusual. You're not used to seeing questions answered in so out of a blue way. And then I'm going to share with you my research on synchronicity, because I have done a PhD in synchronicity. I got so fascinated by the topic that I did a PhD. Here is Singapore. This is the view from my balcony. You can see why I love Singapore. I, for 40 years, have been a global leadership consultant and worked around the world. I work with the team model of Dr. Meredith Belbin. I also work with Dr. Joe Dispenza and with the HeartMath organization. So that's a little bit about me. So synchronicity is what it's all about. Here are just some of my 100 books on synchronicity. And I'm not sharing with you synchronicity as an academic topic. I'm sharing with you synchronicity because it's something that happened to me so often, I decided to do a PhD to examine the topic. Here's how I like to conceptualize the world. And this is taken, this woodcut is taken from 100 years ago, where basically you got the man in the middle. Let me move out of the way here. You got the man in the middle in two worlds. On the right-hand side, where the sun is the world of everyday reality, normal stuff. And on the left-hand side is the world of, gosh, what would you call it? The world of angels, the world beyond what we can see face to face. So always in the history of the world, people have had answers to a journey which is about, life is about a journey to discover that which we already know but cannot see. And for me, synchronicity is that journey. And I want to begin with stories of synchronicity, because the only way we know that synchronicity happens are that unusual things happen to us which don't seem to have an explanation. So I'm first of all going to share some of those stories. And if you have stories of your own, then just record them and make note of them and maybe ask me questions as we go through. There I was in Singapore, Pasir Panjang in Singapore. And I was running my company and I was doing my monthly budget. And it was November 17th, 1993. And I remember it was 10 minutes before 4 in the afternoon. And I looked at my budget and I said, I need $15,000. How am I going to get $15,000? 4 o'clock, 10 minutes later, my colleague, Dr. von Strumpenaars, called me, the world's great cultural guru, and said, Philip, can you go to run a session for us in Beijing next week? Are you free? Luckily, I was free. And then he said to me, you'll be very pleased because the fee is $15,000. Imagine that. 10 minutes before 4, I need $15,000. 10 minutes later, it was given to me on a plate. Synchronicity. Small thing. I was considering moving my apartment in Singapore, and I couldn't decide. I bought the apartment, and I was going to move and rent it out, get an apartment which was cheaper so I could make a little bit of money. Did not know what to do. And there I was in Northbridge Road in Chinatown in Singapore. This, by the way, is not Northbridge Road, but it's a van and needs the van. And I'm at the traffic light saying to myself, shall I move? Shall I not move? Shall I move? Shall I not move? As the van pulled up on the side of me, I looked out and guess what it said on the side of the van? Make the move. So I made the move. And it's one of the best things that's happened to me. I was about to decide or deciding about getting married. I'd met the love of my life, but typical man, I couldn't decide. Now, at the process, at the moment of trying to think this through, I was attending a seminar. And at the seminar, the words and songs of John Denver, the great American folk singer, were played. His beautiful spiritual songs and his romantic songs. As a result of listening to those songs, I said, I'm getting married. I'm going to ask her to marry me. She's the one for me. And on the Friday evening, I said to myself, I'd like to say thank you to John Denver. How do I do that? Just write a letter, John Denver, America. Didn't know what to do. Saturday morning, I woke up. The newspaper, opened the newspaper. It said, John Denver in Singapore next week. I told this to a friend of mine who attended the seminar. And then in the afternoon, a woman called me. She said, you don't know me, but I'm the sales manager at the Shangri-La Hotel. I hear you want to get hold of John Denver. I said, yes, I do. She said, well, if you send a fax to me, I'll see what I can do. She told me later that she had the fax in her hand. She had the fax in her hand. She said, how do I get hold of John Denver? The lift opened. There was John Denver. Sunday night, John Denver called me at home, and we had a great he called and left a message on my answer phone. And the great thing was that therefore I have a record of him calling. Again, how the heck does that happen? Friday evening, I want to say thank you to John Denver. Sunday evening, 48 hours later, he called me at home. And yes, the outcome was a good outcome. Here is my wife. I asked her to marry me and she said yes. This was our wedding day. Looking a little bit younger, I think. My beard was black then. So we have a variety of things, not just in personal life, but in business. I am a leadership consultant and I wanted to do a happiness seminar. And a friend of mine said, if you're doing a happiness seminar, you need the speaker, Dr. Martin Seligman, the guru of happiness. Didn't know how to get hold of him. One day later, I was with an Australian client. The client said to me, it's a good idea to do a happiness. I said, yeah, but I don't know how to get hold of John Denver. My client wrote on a piece of paper, gave me the personal email and phone number of John Denver. We ran the conference and I appeared on TV, etc., etc. So synchronicity. You see, all of these are what I call synchronicity. You need something, and without doing anything, answers come. And so I began to get fascinated in synchronicity, as you can imagine. What was this? Was it luck? Was it coincidence? Was it magic? Paradigm shift? Who knows? But it was certainly something that I wanted to explore. And so I asked around, and my clients all talked about having these types of things happen to them, but not so comfortable to share them with their boss. Boss probably wouldn't like it if you said you ran your business and ran your leadership around synchronicity. So I said, let me dive deeper into this. And so basically decided to do synchronicity research, meaning I did my PhD. And 3 years ago, after 8 long years, I got my PhD, and I'm the only person in the world with a synchronicity and leadership PhD using grounded theory. And I'm armed now with good research in order now to take my business further using this topic. I was so lucky to have Dr. David Cooper Ryder as my supervisor. Those of you who know about business and leadership will know that he invented Appreciative Inquiry, and it was such a delight to have him. One of the best things he ever said to me: if you can find one sheep who can yodel, there is a possibility that all sheep can yodel. You know, in research, people generally say you've got to have a significant amount of people before you can prove that anything happens. We're moving into an era where if one person has that ability, then there's a possibility for all of us to be able to do that. The definition I came up with: synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence or coincidences, it can be more than one, providing guidance and direction to individuals and groups. And it's like as if the world looks like this. It's concrete, it's solid, or so we think. But when we begin to look more closely, and especially when we begin to examine the ideas in quantum physics and quantum entanglement, we realize that actually there's energy as opposed to particle and matter in the world. Dr. Dean Radin said we can get glimpses of information about other people's minds because at some level our mind is already coexistent with their minds, distant objects, and everything else. It's as if we are connected energetically to other people and to ideas. We think the world looks concrete, or we think it looks like this, but in reality, the world around you looks like this. From my research, the ideas of quantum entanglement really began to explain to me more about how synchronicity happens. Quantum entanglement says that we are 0.1% physical matter, and we are 99.9% energy. So although you think there are solid objects around you, imagine all around you there is energy. And ideas and possibilities in your life, for your life, are there. And literally, folks, it's a question of reaching out and bringing and attracting those thoughts and ideas to you. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? But I ask you to begin to think about this. How is it that you can think of a friend that you haven't seen for many years, and then 2 days later, they contact you? Probably half of the people listening to me now have had this happen to them. This is synchronicity. This is your ability to attract from the quantum field. And so that's why I'm really focused on this at the moment, to be able to help people understand how we can make something that we kind of think is just coincidence or old life tale come true. What I found was that synchronicity, and basically I interviewed 25 people who had synchronicity happen to them and asked them how it happened to them, what was going on when it happened. Have a strong intent and an elevated emotion. I want this, I really want this, and I have a strong feeling of getting it. Trust your intuition. Intuition is the calling card of synchronicity. When you have that strong feeling, that's because there's something that you're sensing in the energetic field that is drawing you to it. In your day-to-day life, watch for out-of-the-blue coincidences. Reflect and connect and be in the present moment, meaning live now. Be aware of things around you now. Don't be in such a hurry. Take time to stop and reflect. What I found, the conclusions that my participants came to, was that synchronicity, when you dive deeper into it, tells us you are not alone. In this life, you are not alone. In this life, you are guided. That life, rather than being this strange, non-existent, non-meaning situation we're all in, actually life has meaning and there is a purpose. And part of that is that we're all connected. So what do I do now? I spend a lot of time still doing leadership and team workshops, but I'm bringing synchronicity into that, bringing synchronicity into areas of peace. I do a lot of work with the United Nations. Here's me and Ban Ki-moon. And so although I'm now 71 years old, I feel invigorated, almost as if I'm 16, and ready now for the next period of my life, however long I have, to really explore this. Because in terms of leadership, the great Joe Jaworski, who wrote about synchronicity, those of you who work as leadership consultants or in organizations, the leader's role is to set the stage on which team miracles, synchronistic in nature, can and do occur. My role now as I travel around the world is helping teams and leaders attract to them the answers that they are looking for. And what I did was take my PhD research and make it into 9 keys, kind of like a step-by-step process. A lot of people write about synchronicity, but very few have actually written about it in terms of here are the steps in order to make synchronicity happen. This is the title of my upcoming book, which should be out in a couple of months, Open Your Heart to Meaning, Miracles, and Magic. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction to these 9 keys. There are 3 keys which are mindsets. Key 1 is about dreaming the possible, thinking possible. Key 2, being in the present moment. 3, connecting with source. I'll say more about these in a little while. The red keys are about the process of synchronicity. Pay attention in your life to unusual things that are separate from your day-to-day routine. When something unusual happens, it's probably because behind it, there's a synchronicity waiting to show itself to you. Act on your intuition, key 5. Not just have intuition, you've got to take action. A lot of people lose out on miracles in their life because they have an intuition, do this, do this, do this, but they say, no, I'm too scared, don't want to. Be grateful for and celebrate every moment that you have synchronicities happen to you. Then you have the purple keys, which are about integrating synchronicity into your life. Learn how to connect the dots. There are different things happening in your life. Synchronicity comes with messages for you. Bring together the head and the heart. We are at the end of an age where we've just focused on logic. Newtonian logic says the head and logic is all there is. Now, please don't get me wrong. I am not saying don't use your head. Of course, use your head, but use your head in conjunction with the heart. What does the head say? What does the heart say? You've got to listen to both, and we don't enough listen to the heart. And then finally, integrate be a servant citizen. What I found from my research is that synchronicities happened a lot to people when they were focused on something bigger than themselves. I'm not saying that synchronicity doesn't bring you $15,000, because for me it did. But when you're focused on something that's about contributing to the world, people told me that synchronicity seemed to happen more. So, dream possibility. Dream possibility is all about look at the possibility of what could happen. So much of our lives, we live with a sense of survival. We are worried about what's down the road. We are worried about what could happen. But if we look at life from the perspective of there are answers everywhere, if only I look for them, that's about the possible. And that's a mindset that will help synchronicities come to you. There is magic out there, and I can't help but talk about magic and spirituality. There is magic out there if you are willing to look. 2, be still and merge with the present moment. Here's one of my favorites. Sorry about the rough edges of this picture, but I love this picture. Why the dog is happier. There's the owner, and there's the dog looking at a beautiful wood scene. What's the owner thinking about? Money, flight, his car. What's the dog thinking about? Being there with his owner, enjoying the scene. So often, my friends, we lose out on the beauty of the world, because we just don't stop and be present with people, with loved ones, where we are. So be in the present moment. When you're in the present moment, then what happens is that uncovering of synchronicity happens. I like to go out into nature. And in my consulting work, I've worked in Bhutan, for example. Here was a group from Denmark and Bhutan. We ran a seminar, literally camping in a river, next to a river in Bhutan. And I did various exercises. This was literally the view we had at nighttime. So I took advantage of that, because somehow when you are in nature, your spirit is more open to synchronicities and possibilities. So go out into nature. This one to me is one of my most amazing synchronicities, and this is to do with connect with source. I appear a lot on, used to appear a lot on Singapore TV, talking about the news, which meant getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And so there I was getting ready to go to the studio. I had to be there by 6:30. And I just looked down at my phone. My phone had a message, and it said, email from your dad. Now, nothing unusual, except it was very unusual. My father had passed on 1 year before. A psychic friend of mine in the States wrote me a mail and said, your dad has been bothering me to get this message to you. And here was the message she wrote. My dad literally dictated this to her from wherever he was. Message from your dad. I'm doing very well. I'm very happy. I see what you're doing. I'm very proud of you, son. I see you think of me often. Please know I'm doing good, and I am very happy. I dance a lot. Random messages. But the words in yellow, I want you to pay attention to. I am so happy to see you on the television box. You're going to be doing more of this and more, and helping people more and more too. I am so proud of you. Now, my dad's generation didn't call it the TV. They called it the television box, which made me think that this message was authentic. And what was I about to do? It was 6:30 in the morning. I'm about to go to appear on TV. How the heck did my dad know? How is it possible? My friend in the States didn't know I was on TV. My dad was dead for 1 year. But that told me somehow, somewhere, he had the ability to know what I was doing precisely when I was doing it. And I look at this very often and get a great deal of comfort from it. So when your loved ones pass on, be aware that they know what you are doing. They can see you. They know what's going on. I work with Joe Dispenza, who talks about energy. I'm not going to linger here too long. Let's go to the next keys. This is about your day-to-day life of the process of synchronicity. Be curious. When through the routine of your day, most of us have routines. We do this, we do this, we do this. We go to work, we get the same bus, we come back home, we have the same meal, we watch the same TV programs, done. When something happens which is out of the blue, pay attention, because that is synchronicity trying to get to you. And key 5, as I've said to you, don't just have an intuition, act on the intuition. Your intuition is coming your way to serve you. And then be grateful and celebrate. So important to have that sense of thankfulness. Don't just say, coincidence, interesting, next one. This is the quantum field trying to speak to you, trying to show you something. Steve Jobs, the great Steve Jobs, said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. That's to do with key 5. So I've begun to look at various things in terms of keys. Act on your intuition. I said one day here in Singapore, I want to do more outside work with my teams and leadership. That was Monday. Tuesday, I was contacted out of the blue totally from a bank in South Africa who said, Philip, we would like to do an exercise for leadership using fly fishing. We want to be in the open. We've heard you do stuff like this. Can you come and help us? Now think about it. Monday, I now must do more outdoor team building so people can actually be in touch with themselves, be in touch with nature, and attract the quantum field. Following day, I was asked to go and do this in South Africa. Connect the dots, pretty obvious. What you're doing is when a synchronicity happens to you, you say to yourself, what's going on in my life? Am I looking for a new job? Am I looking for a new relationship? Am I trying to get out of my current relationship? Do I need a new apartment? Do I need a new career? Whatever it might be. When the synchronicity happens, begin to connect it to the dots of your life to see what's going on. Live head and heart coherence, I've talked about already, and I've talked already about being a servant leadership. So Steve Jobs again, because Steve Jobs said you can only connect the dots you can't connect the dots looking forward. Synchronicity helps us to do that. When something happens, you can begin to look at your life and say, I was looking for investing in Cambodia. This week, I've had 5 different people come to talk to me about Cambodia. Let's connect the dots. Maybe it means you invest in Cambodia, maybe it doesn't. But all the time in your life, all around you, there are signs of things. And I'm not just talking about all wives' tales. We now have moved beyond that because of quantum physics, because of quantum entanglement. We now know that there is connection at a distance. And we know that is happening. Begin to look out for those connections. Here's one of my most amazing synchronicities. I was with a colleague of mine in a mall here in Singapore, and I just told my friend about a dream I had where I thought I was a freedom fighter fighting against the government. Crazy dream. And I also told my friend I just had my 66th birthday. I literally was talking to my friend, turned to my left. There was this guy walking past me with Freedom Fighter 66. Literally 10 seconds after I told my friend about the Freedom Fighter dream and that it was my 66th birthday, I ran after the guy. I took his picture. To this day, he doesn't know that I took his picture. What was this saying to me? As I connected the dots, 66 was my birthday. 6 in Chinese means luck. 66 means luck. I just submitted my dissertation for marking, and I took this to mean that I was going to be lucky that my dissertation and PhD was approved, which it was. Freedom Fighter was a little bit more difficult, but as I thought about what I'm doing with synchronicity, so many leaders don't like to talk about synchronicity at work because they feel constrained to talk about anything that's quasi-spiritual. So I see my role these days as being a freedom fighter, helping people be free to talk about the spiritual things at work. And synchronicity is quasi-spiritual. Doesn't mean to say you've got to share your religion and push it down people's throats. But I'm a freedom fighter, I believe, to help people begin to understand this. Be a servant leader. All of my life, I wanted to work and help with the United Nations. I did lots of work with them, but I was with them in Iraq. This is me working with the United Nations team in Iraq. And I remember feeling so good that I wanted to work in situations that were helping peace develop in the world. Here I was in Iraq, helping part of that process. Here I was also in Sri Lanka. I do a lot of work with the HeartMath organization. You'll see these teenagers have got their hand on their heart. I was asked to help in a situation where there was post-conflict team building, post-conflict reconciliation. This is about servant leadership, meaning when you contribute to something bigger than yourself, somehow it comes to pass. I'm going to move to conclusion now, which leaves us lots of time for questions. When Steve Jobs died, you think I've got an obsession with Steve Jobs, right? This is the third Steve Jobs quote, but this I love. Remember I said that the quantum world is all around us and that we are 0.1% physical particle and that we are 99.9% energy, quantum energy and the quantum energy, that world which we can't quite see, but we can see, is all around us. The day Steve Jobs died, 5th of October 2011, and these words come from his sister, Mona Simpson, who was there. Before embarking, meaning before dying, he looked at his sister, Patty, then for a long time at his children, and then at his life's partner, Lorene, and then over their shoulders past them. Steve's final words were, "Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow." Now, I put it to you that if you're afraid to die, you don't use words like, "oh, wow." I think when Steve Jobs looked past his family, he was seeing the quantum world. As this world slipped away in physical terms, he's beginning to see the other side. And to me, I choose to interpret this as a powerful recognition of the quantum world. So where am I now? I'm finalizing my book, The 9 Keys of Synchronicity. It's almost written. Obviously, it's fully written. And now I'm doing the internal layout and the book cover and all of that sort of stuff. I'm calling it Open the Doors to a Life of Meaning, Miracles, and Magic. On my 2-day masterclass, which I'll be doing in the future this year, you'll get a copy of this book. So, as I begin to move to conclusion, if you want info about the book and about my masterclass, here is my email, phil@philipmerry.com, very simple, and my personal mobile personal mobile phone. It's getting late here in Singapore. And also, if you have any synchronicity stories, I'm gathering stories, because there are wonderful stories of miracles happening that people don't always share, but now we live in an age when we're more able to share them and more comfortable to share them. So if you have any stories, do let me know. I want to remind you, especially those of you doing leadership, what if your role, as Joe Jaworski said, is to help leaders set the stage on which miracles can happen? So your job isn't just about performance, but of course money is important, so the miracle might be profitable this year. But your job is to help leaders and teams access the quantum field and cause, through my 9 keys is how I'm doing it, more miracles to happen. And remember that behind every synchronicity, so next time you have something happen to you that you kind of think, that's interesting, totally logical, but I wonder why it happened, but interesting, and just shrug your shoulders and that's it. Don't do that. I hope that by listening to what I'm saying today, you will begin to realize, I hope, that behind every synchronicity is a miracle waiting to happen to bring stuff to your life. So there's my presentation. I'm 5 minutes early. Maybe I talked too quickly, but very happy now to answer questions. So that's the presentation as it is. Let's now look at some of your questions, and let me stop sharing the screen. I stopped sharing the screen and it looks like you can't see me. Pamela, help. I'm looking for help here, Pamela. Oh, you all see me, so I can't. All right, thank you. So it's just that I can't see you. Okay, no problem. And I can't even see myself. I'm just looking at the screen, but never mind. Let's actually look at the questions here or comments. So what we have is Mete Plima. I hope I got that right. One of the best synchronicity moments I have had is when I went to Thailand after my good friend Rob died to retrace his last steps and thus honor his life in some way. It was in a fisherman's wooden boat going to an island on the other side and was thinking of my friend. I turned my head to the side, and just in that moment, a speedboat passed by and written on the side with the big letters, Bavaria, the place of my friend's birth and to whom he was very attached. I took it as a sign from him. I would say, Mété, that that's definitely a sign. I mean, what are the chances when you're thinking of your friend, then Bavaria comes by? So that tells me you are on the right journey, and that somehow your friend Rob was honoring you with that synchronicity. Okay. We have another question. How can I distinguish intuition from response from my brain, which is based on experiences? Sometimes I have a great feeling inside of me, but the real experience is not always in accordance with the expected feeling. So there are 3 types of synchronicity, Eleanor, and HeartMath organization has done a lot of work on this. The first type of synchronicity is exactly, not synchronicity, intuition is exactly what you're saying, is that you've seen this situation pass so many times that you in a split second know the answer. That's the intuition you're talking about here. So that's the first type. Distinguish it from the second type and the third type. The second type of intuition is when you can sense the energy of the place that you are in. All of us have the ability to pick up energy. Have you ever walked into a room and you felt the energy in the room straight away? You feel conflict or you feel happiness because you can sense the energy. So that's the second type of intuition. And then the third type of intuition is literally you get answers from the quantum field. The HeartMath organization, and if some of you don't know the HeartMath, please go just search HeartMath. Heart, M-A-T-H, all one word, and they have great white papers that will show you their research. They have measured that the heart can pick up answers before your head knows the answer. So we do have that ability. So the intuition you're talking about, Eleanor, is the basic type of intuition, which is you've seen it many, many times before, you quickly know the answer. So that is the brain analyzing and coming to answer. The other 2 are important. I hope that gives you your answer. Fabienne, what is your favorite manifestation technique? Wow, so many. But I think today, and don't forget, I've been studying this for 10 years or so. My favorite manifestation these days is to imagine the quantum field around me. It is to use key number 2, which is to be in the present moment and literally with my spirit, my heart, my intuition, listen for an answer. If the answer doesn't come straight away, I will then just walk outside and literally something that I see will give me the answer. Now, of course, there are lots of meditation techniques, but I'm on a journey to make synchronicity as simple as possible. I want it to be something whereby you can look out in your life as it is at the moment, know that you have a need, and just sense that need, answer to that need is somewhere in your life that day. That, I think, is the one I like to manifest. Massimo, could you show the 9 keys enumeration side? Let me go through all the questions and I'll finish with the 9 keys. Matthias Berger, would you consider synchronicity to cross several lives? Aka, are we in the present influenced by experiences in past life? Yes, I believe we absolutely are. Not enough work has been done on this, Matthias, but I have a simple belief. I was born to a Christian family. My parents are ministers in the Christian church, but I now consider myself to be a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist, and a Christian. All have similar focus. And do you know that Christians believed in past lives until 400 AD when the Catholic Church outlawed it? So I believe that we come into this life with stuff to do and stuff to learn. And so I believe that experiences from previous lives bring us into this life, and either generate new ways of approaching. And have you ever, and I'm sure you have, Matthias, have you ever met somebody and you say to yourself, I know this person, but there is no way that you know them in this life? That to me is the sign that somewhere, somehow you knew them in a previous life. And I encourage people just to go and play around with this. If I meet somebody, and as I meet him or her, I'm reminded of Roman times, and I was a centurion, if that immediately comes to my mind, I'll experience that. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But yes, so my answer to you, Matthias, is absolutely, I believe that synchronicities are influenced by past lives. Galina, great question. The reality about synchronicity is that you attract to you that which you vibrate. So if you are vibrating bad things and difficult things, then that's what will come to you. If you go out, or if you go for an exam and you say to yourself constantly, I'm going to fail, I'm sure I'm going to fail this exam, I haven't rehearsed enough, I haven't practiced enough, then you're going to fail. And what often happens is that a lot of people say to me, how come synchronicity doesn't always happen to me? How come I don't always attract that which I want? Because you are not fully believing what it is that you want. If you want a great relationship and you say, I want a great relationship, I want a great relationship, I want a great relationship, you write it down 100 times and you keep saying it. But beneath that, you feel that you're not worthy of a great relationship. Why would anybody ever want to be with me? Guess what happens is the energy field responds to the stronger feeling that you're putting out there. So yes, I do believe bad and sad things can happen, but I still believe it's to do with your own inner energy. And sometimes, Galina, there are no answers. Please don't ask me to say there is a purpose to COVID-19. It's a terrible thing that is happening to the world. I'm not one of those people that say, there's a reason why this is happening. Maybe there is, but all I can see of COVID-19 at the moment is bloody awful and terrible. And I don't do honor to those people who had loved ones die by saying, there's a reason. For me at the moment, I don't see any reason. Matthias, this is the first ASW webinar I have attended, Synchronicity at Work. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me here. But if you're asking, do we do synchronicity at work? Yes, that's what I'm doing at the moment. There's a lot written about synchronicity in our personal lives, but I'm bringing it into the work life too. Elizabeth, can you please tell us more about your education in the field of synchronicity? My education. I've got a PhD in synchronicity. So my education in the field is actually going out there and doing original research into synchronicity, reading about it, but particularly interviewing people who have had synchronicity happen to them. So the education is mostly, Elizabeth, what I have created and what I'm about in my life for the next period of time in my life, however much time God gives me. I am now creating masterclasses in synchronicity and bringing this as much as I can to the world. Any relation to Carl Jung? Yes, he's my father. No, I'm joking. No, I'm no relation to Carl Jung. But yes, of course, synchronicity is all about Carl Jung. Carl Jung was the first person who invented the word synchronicity, which means together in time. Synchronicity has happened way before Carl Jung. It's happened all throughout history. But the great Carl Jung was the first person really to write about it. And most that you see today really comes from the work of Carl Jung. Martin. Special meaning. Great question, Martin. How do we distinguish between correct intuition and imagined intuition? By practice, I have to say, Martin, is very simple. That sometimes I get it wrong. I think, synchronicity is going to happen, intuitions happen, this is the way to go, and I'm wrong. But if you practice and you practice and you practice and you sense, and you can do this very easily, you can do it with football matches. You can try and guess the outcome of a football match by the exact amount. I remember one time a friend of mine, I said, Liverpool Football Club are going to go to Manchester United and beat them 4-1. And it was against all run of play, and they had to beat them 4-1. So yes, I get it wrong. This is not an exact science. But if you slowly begin to test your intuition, so for example, if the phone rings, say to yourself, I wonder who's ringing, I bet it's Peter. And you pick up and it's Peter. So maybe it is. So over the years, I've got to actually hone in my skill on intuition and not intuition, but I still get it wrong. This is not an exact science, Martin. Maki N. Dream possibilities is like prayer or meditation for the ideal future. I would like to know further for practical ways to attract synchronicity. Easier is better. Maki, don't we all like something easier? But it's not that way, unfortunately. But actually, synchronicity is like praying. Answers from synchronicity are like answers to prayer, because when you actually, if I sit here and I say to myself, I would like 5 people from this group be interested in my masterclass, maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. But if I'm praying for it, and what's the difference between praying and affirming? Because I think there's not a big difference. So it's not a big difference, because when you're meditating, if you remember me saying, you are actually getting into the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you are connecting with the quantum field. And the quantum field has all the answers to your questions and issues that you would like to actually know the answers to. So if you're connecting with that, and prayer is about connecting with that bigger force, then yes, that's possible. Fabian, have you heard of the 369 manifestation technique? What do you think about it? No, I haven't. That sounds like a song, right? 369, the goose drank wine. No, sorry. Fabian, you're going to have to write to me and let me know more about that. Please explain key 3, connect with source. Thank you, Peter. I didn't want to make this about connecting with God, or an Islamic God, or a Christian God, or a Hindu God, or Buddha. But what my research said, and remember, all of my 9 keys of synchronicity is research-based. What my persons that I interviewed said was that when you have synchronicity happen, it's like connecting with source. And all I define source is something bigger than yourself, a source of energy outside of yourself. Now, if you have a strong religious belief, if you're a Christian, you will call this source the Holy Spirit. If you're a strong Muslim, my Muslim brothers will say, this is Allah. If you are a strong Hindu, it will be one of the gods. So I think that basically we're in an age where many people have rejected religion, but have accepted spirituality, and have accepted that there is something beyond ourselves that is giving answers to questions that we ask. And we are connected with something bigger than ourselves. So that's what I mean by source. Massimo, is synchrony happening even if we cannot see it? Or are we just a Schrodinger's cat? I love the Schrodinger's cat experiment. In my definition, Massimo, synchronicity is happening all of the time. But you need a strong vibration in yourself to connect with it. For example, we all have mobile phones. When you are not listening to your mobile phone, does that mean the signal is not being transmitted? Of course it is. Radio receivers are transmitting all of the time. It's just that you haven't linked your particular phone to the radio waves. So it's my belief, So you notice I'm saying it's my belief a lot, because you can't go factual with this. We are in an age where we are beginning to find answers, and it's my belief that all around us is potential energy, possibility is in the quantum field around us. Hope that helps a little bit. Mete, again, would you say that synchronicity is a way of the universe to show that you? Yes, I would, Mete, absolutely I would. I've actually, part of my conclusion was that there is such a thing called the life of synchronicity. So you can take a synchronicity that happens to you and say, okay, that was great. I needed $10,000 and it came up, thank you. Or you can begin to say, I want to go deeper. And as you go deeper, as I did, you begin to find synchronicity is the outpouring of the quantum energy or spiritual energy of the universe. Remember, I said for my conclusion that we are all connected and that there is meaning. We are connected to each other and to the universe. So yes, I think it's there all the time, and it is about something bigger. Aline, do you think writing helps develop synchronicity and therefore serendipity? Well, you've got two questions there. Remember, synchronicity and serendipity are different. Synchronicity is when you have a thing in mind and it comes to you. Serendipity is when you don't have something in mind, but it comes your way anyway and you enjoy it. So, for example, you were going to the library looking for books on accounting because you're an accountant. But while you're there, you find a book on travel and then decide that travel is actually much more enjoyable for you than accountancy. So the serendipity is finding something. Synchronicity would be, in that case, wanting to have a new career on travel and finding a book on travel. That would be synchronicity. So I think synchronicity is about having the desire beforehand and finding what you want. Serendipity is finding something that you weren't necessarily looking for. And I think that writing helps. A lot of my friends will say to you, write down just random thoughts that come to you, because we're constantly picking up things out there. If you write it down, then that's okay. Nature, yes, nature, yeah, I definitely say nature helps. Anywhere where you are still and quiet. But don't forget, you can be in the middle of a crowd and be still and quiet. I've been in the middle of very busy hawker stalls here in Singapore, lots of people around, but I've got my own stillness. The example of the 66 freedom fighter, I was surrounded by people. Yet in the middle of that, a guy came to me with a t-shirt exactly reflecting what I just thought about. Martin, you mentioned nature. Oh, we talked about that already. Malvina, how do you deal with low energy days? Do you have a method to lift your energy level? If I have a low energy day, I stay in bed. But the best way, Malvina, as far as I'm concerned, to lift low energy is to do something meaningful. Yesterday in the morning, I had low energy. And I had a seminar that I was about to do the pre-work for United Nations in Papua New Guinea. Hello, my friends in Papua New Guinea, if anybody's listening. But I went ahead and did the talk with them anyway to prepare for the seminar on change I'm running tomorrow. After the seminar, my low energy had gone. Why? Because I was doing something meaningful for somebody else. I'm a facilitator and I have those skills over 40 years. So it gave me a great deal of joy to bring my skills to bear to help other people. I noticed at the beginning of the day, very low energy. By the time I'd spent an hour and a half with my friends in the UN, my energy had totally lifted and stayed with me for the rest of the day. Even so that my wife said to me, what happened to you? So if you've got low energy, find somebody to help. Anonymous attendee. Hello, anonymous attendee. What can you do to shift your mindset from negative to positive? The best way is what I just said. Find somebody to help. I'm sure everybody on this call has had a situation where you were feeling like a victim, you had terrible things happen to you, and you were in a bad mood. Suddenly a friend says, my mom is sick at the hospital. I need to get her to the hospital. Can you help? And so you get in your car immediately, because we respond with kindness. When you get in your car and you take their mom, and when you get there, it's a useful day, your contribution helped, you come back home, all negativity is gone. There's something about flooding our minds with positive that takes away the negative. And the best way I know how to do that is find somebody to help. We are 2 minutes before 9. So I think, Pamela, are we close to finishing? I don't see any more questions. Let me finish with the 9 keys, with our friend who said, I didn't see the 9 keys. So let me show you them again as my final contribution. It's just preparing the slides, folks. Okay. You get all the slides, my friend, in quick view. Okay. So here I'm going to finish with this, the 9 keys of synchronicity. And remember, this is not me just making this up. This comes from my PhD research from other people. 3 mindsets. Dream possibility. Don't go negative. Don't say things can't be coming true. Dream the possibility is possible. Be still and merge with the quantum energy in the present moment. If you have a God you believe in, connect with that source. If you don't, just connect with something bigger than yourself. Key 4, the red keys are when synchronicity comes your way. Look out for and be curious about out of the blue events in your life. Act on intuition. Don't just have the intuition, act on it. Key 6, be grateful. Say happy, stay happy, say thank you. We don't say thank you enough. Those who you love, tell them today, I love you. They'll be very surprised, but they'll feel good. And then the purple keys, how to integrate synchronicity into your life. Connect the dots around you. Why did the synchronicity happen and what did it give you? Use your heart as well as your head. And I have techniques for getting into coherence. And then finally, key 9, be what we call a servant citizen. Use synchronicity for your own benefit. Of course, attract money to you, attract goods to you, attract relationships to you. But also remember, synchronicity happens when you're helping the world. And there are many ways to help the world at the moment. We are now 9 o'clock. I like to keep to time. I think that's all the questions. So, Fabienne, thank you for amazing listeners. I hope